Hey, this is Fiona, and in this video I wanted to talk to you about my first San Pedro ceremony, which happened actually yesterday. Um, so it took place in Santa Cruz, and it was actually the same group that I do my ayahuasca ceremonies with. And so we had to show up Friday in the afternoon, and we did a breathwork session. And this is a large group of people. I think it was around 14 people. And before I went into the ceremony, it was kind of like a last minute, like something is calling for me to join to do this plant medicine. And I hadn't really done a lot of research on it. I knew that it was the grandfather. If like ayahuasca kind of represents the grandmother, then San Pedro represents the grandfather. And it's a more gentle journey, they say. It's with the cactus wachuma. And so I went into this, I wanted to do kind of like a soul cleanse, and I wanted to just kind of reset everything, reset my chakras, reset my brain, just clean the slate. My intention was to really dive into, being able to have really clear discernment with people. I feel like I'm going through a lot of letting go of a lot of people in my life, and a lot of illusions that have kind of been, I feel like I've kind of been misled and kind of not really tuned into my own intuition about people and not trusted it, even though my intuition has been right about a lot of things. I feel like I went into this journey because I wanted to get clarity. I wanted to really dive into my intuition, really get clear about my boundaries, about my discernment, and also just being detached about the whole thing. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. So after the breath work, it was a pretty intense situation because letting go of people, it's kind of like you're still hanging on. It's like what I needed to release was the illusions that I was not worthy of love or not worthy of this person's validation. And those are all illusions, because we're like this temple, this fountain of love, of abundant love, and it's like never ending. It's like this exponential, it's like it comes right through us, and there's so much of it. And so I felt like in the breath work I was still kind of struggling with like this, like hanging on to that kind of illusion of, oh, I'm not worthy of love, well, I'm not, so those limiting beliefs. And how the ceremony went was we'd go to bed that night, and it was the group of people, they were so much fun. I just felt like everyone just really contributed to the energy. It was really lovely. I think there was about 6 women and then 4 men, and they had us separated, so they had the women in one side of the room and the men in the other side of the room. And so in the morning we were woken up at 4 a.m. and our facilitator rung the bells, and we would get up one person at a time, and we had to drink this like tumbler glass size of the huachuma, of the San Pedro, the mescaline, mixed with apple juice, I guess, to help the bitter taste. And it was hard to stomach. It was really, you have to drink a lot of it. So every hour the bell would ring, and we'd each go around, we'd come up and drink our glass in front of the group, and then just go right back to our mats. And I think the third hour, so we started at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. was when I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel all this energy coming through me. And I was like, okay, I need to go for a walk. I felt kind of nauseous too. And that's kind of normal. There is this like kind of prolonged nausea that's kind of right in your gut, right in your third chakra. And it kind of stays there. And that was kind of a lot of people's experience that I found out later on. But so I went outside and just watched the sun rise, and it was so peaceful. It was just unbelievable. There's this deep wanting to connect with nature. I was hearing all the birds, all the animals. I was feeling like every single movement in nature, even the trees, the leaves blowing in the wind, the branches, felt like it was like talking to me. So it was like nature was really, I just felt really connected with nature. I had to get away from people. It was weird. It was kind of, at first, you know, I was feeling all this bubbly love energy, and I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of sassafras, MDMA, and it was just like this lightheartedness, like love and appreciation for all of nature and people and everything. And then I was like, oh, it's kind of like mushrooms, where it's like I feel like my aura is mixing with other people's auras, and I don't like that. And I was like, okay, I needed to get out. And so I went to the backyard area and I meditated, and it was a little bit dizzying. It was a little bit like, it kind of like ramps up really slowly, and then it stays at this peak, and you're kind of at this peak, and it kind of goes down, then dips back up, dips back down. So it's kind of like this really long journey. I think the whole thing, we started at 4 a.m., went until 6 p.m. that day. So it was long, and I was still experiencing the effects even after the ceremony. I made sure to, of course, ground myself and eat some food at the end just to make sure I was okay to drive back home. But it was a real, like, they said it was gentle. They said like, oh, this is a gentle medicine. And some of the people there had just done a 2-day ayahuasca retreat, and they were going right into this. And there's this moment where I remember sitting outside with nature, and I was by myself, and I was like, I really don't want anyone else to come out here. Like, I want this to be my space. Because I was just it's like my aura was really expanding, and I was like feeling all of nature, and nature was really loud. It was like all my senses just became 100 times stronger. At one point, I felt the presence of a male energy to my left, right behind, and I looked behind me, and I was like, and I kept looking behind me because it would, like, I would feel this presence, this masculine energy. I'm like, it's kind of like the grandfather energy of the medicine, but it's weird. I've never had a really positive grandfather figure. My biological grandfather on my dad's side was not a good person, did a lot of really bad things. And then my grandfather on my mom's side I never knew, because they, you know, during the communist regime, everyone was unfortunately killed. So yeah, I didn't really have a really good masculine kind of role model. And what I kind of got, so as it progressed, it was getting stronger, and it was getting to a point where I was like, whoa, I feel like I'm losing control. And that's the point where you want to let go. You don't want to control the plant medicine. I did not know how strong this was going to be. I took 3 glasses, and it got pretty strong. The point where your kundalini energy is really moving through your body, and I could start hearing like whispering behind me, and I'd be like, who's here, you know? And it was just, I don't know, it was like beings behind me, or I feel like the spirit world was very active though. I felt like there was a lot of communication from the animals. I could hear them like communicating with one another. I could hear the trees, the leaves, all of it was like telepathic messages to me. And there was this moment where I was like, oh, I feel like taking off my clothes. I feel like I'm gonna either purge from the north or the south. I'm gonna take off my clothes. I'm just gonna go into nature and do my business. And like, that felt right. And of course I didn't do that, but I felt this strong urge to just really touch the ground and really feel into nature. And I remember my dad had told me a story of my grandmother's older brother, Leo. He was in a retirement home, and when he was actually aware of when he was going to die. He actually walked out of the retirement home, went into nature, took off his clothes, laid down, and he actually passed. He died. But it was just so beautiful, like a beautiful way to kind of die, to kind of just go back into nature. And I know with ayahuasca, there's definitely an ego death. You feel you cease to exist, instead of you're just part of the sea of existence. With San Pedro, it was almost like facing the physical body death. But it's kind of hard to explain, because it wasn't super clear. I know that there was some sort of death, but you know, I'm still kind of fresh out of the experience, so I'm still kind of integrating. But I think it does have to do with like a returning to nature, a returning back to what it means to be, you know, a mammal, an animal. You know, you're part of nature. I feel like we've kind of pulled ourselves out of nature, and we're not even touching the earth anymore. We're not touching the ground. We're breathing air inside of a room that probably has mold in it and all this other dust, and our feet are touching carpet or, you know, tile, and it's like there's just this disconnection. And I feel like I felt really the need to just be in nature and be away from other people. It was kind of similar to my ayahuasca experience, where I just had to get away from the group and just be on my own journey, do my own thing. And so I went upstairs, I had my puke bucket, because I just felt like, oh, I don't know if it was gonna, and it's not a purgatory thing, you know, Huachuma doesn't normally make you throw up, but I guess it's because I didn't sleep well the night before. I was going through a lot of stuff that week, and I just brought it up in case. And while I was up there, I remember looking at the wallpaper, and it was like these different patterns of bamboo, and they were kind of going up and down and up and down. And I remember one of the facilitators came up and kind of talked to me, and they, you know, we kind of discussed just relationships in general, and just how I've been drawn to really physically beautiful people, but energetically their energy is shit. It's ugly. You know, they're usually narcissistic or have some sort of personality disorder or have not done any self-reflection. And it's like, what is that in me that doesn't, you know, that the masculine in me that doesn't have the discernment to see that? I get kind of spellbound, and I end up settling in a way and not seeing the clues that have been presented along the way of, oh, you know, you've kind of gone after people that have treated you like shit, and not appreciated your work, your gifts, and who you are, and not respected your boundaries. So it was really, you know, came down to how is it that I'm not valuing myself? Like, what I kind of noticed with the medicine was that there was this grandfatherly, like very matter of fact, things are very white and black way of looking at the world, almost like a, you know, helicopter view, looking at all the people I've been with, and just seeing, oh, you know, if it's almost like I saw myself as a grandfather to me as the girl who's like, and grandfather energy is like, oh, of course these guys are not good for my daughter or my granddaughter. And it was like this level of discernment where I was just like, whoa, I thought I was gonna be really emotional and stuff. And in fact, I was very like matter of fact, like laughing about it, like, how did I not see this? Like, it was so obvious that so it was like grandfather San Pedro was really just like, you know, this is how it is. These are the people, these are who they are. No sugarcoating it. This is who they are. This is how they've always been. This is how they are in real life. They don't deserve you. And it was just this moment of enlightenment of just like, you know, it's like it's easier for someone else to see outside, but how could I have not seen that? And it was very much about realigning my masculine energy, boundaries, discernment, detachment, and then from there, you know, renewing yourself, seeing yourself, being aware of my heart's needs, not changing who I am, not hiding who I am, but being very clear about my needs. So I was in the bathroom for a little while, and I won't go into detail about that, but talking to the facilitator was very helpful because it was like it helped me really see things. And I know that being on San Pedro makes you very talkative. It's almost like this like wisdom that's you're kind of downloading. And I did journal quite a bit. Some people were also doing hape while they were doing San Pedro, and I heard that could have helped with the nausea. And I wish I would have tried some hape while I was doing the journey, but I was kind of off on my own, you know, doing my own thing. So after a while, I ended up laying down upstairs kind of by myself. I had facilitators close the door and just let me be. She said, you know, closing your eyes, you're going to get a much deeper experience. And I did. I felt like visuals, you know, it was very just white and black. And it was more just like sacred geometry, but it wasn't anything like ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is kind of like the deep end of the psychedelics. Very beautiful visuals. With San Pedro, it was more plain, and it was more just like 2D. So I remember lying in bed, and I would have, it'd be like moments where I'd be like, oh, it's kind of coming down, and then the medicine would come back up. So it was like this really long kind of up and down of like, okay, I really feel it, I'm feeling the energy. And similar to ayahuasca, it was like I felt really held down in my body, felt very grounded, and at the same time I felt like I could feel all the aches and pains and discomforts in my body, and it was a little bit like I'm trying to move myself to make myself comfortable. And all it's doing is pointing out what's in your body. So like if you have knots in your back, that's emotional too. I mean, some people say that's like because you're holding your back like this, but what's the emotion that's also creating that knot? So I do think everything in our bodies is also manifested from our emotions. So I remember just having a conversation with the trees outside that were kind of like waving at me, and I just got in this trance of like partial closing my eyes, partial opening them, and just kind of and I was like going through all these past memories, reliving them, and just kind of seeing where I was totally blind spotted by a lot of things. And it was like the grandfather energy was very much like, oh, you know who you are, you know your boundaries, you know these people are not good for you. And I think I was amazed because I could see it so clearly, without the emotional stuff, without any attachment, without anything. I could just see it as black and white as could be. It was truly amazing. And that's when I was like, this medicine is similar to ayahuasca because of its profound downloads that you get, but actually it's quite different from ayahuasca. You don't have the purging part. I mean, some people did purge just because it was a lot of medicine that some people drank, and it does. I mean, the nausea is a pretty mild nausea, and some people, I guess, if you concentrate on it, you can actually make yourself purge. I tried to make myself purge at one point, but I was just like, it just wants to stay there. So I didn't really need to, but I did feel the nausea, and I was like, nausea is something that a lot of people don't feel comfortable with. I don't personally like nausea. I'll take like a ginger tablet or something if I start to feel sick to my stomach, just because it's an unpleasant feeling. But what is that representing? What is that nausea really about? And I think it has to do with like a fear of losing control. Like when you're purging, when you feel sick, you feel like, oh, you have to be really present with it. It's like you can't really think about anything else, so it's like a presence in your body. And also, like, what is it that's making you feel sick? I think for me, it's like a fear of losing control. And so the more I can kind of go back to that place of, where does it feel like I'm losing control? Oh, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm in a safe space. It's okay to feel like I have no control here. And in fact, I don't have any control, right? So it is kind of surrendering to the plant medicine and not fighting it. So I spent pretty much most of the journey in that room, and I heard lots of people laughing, they were talking, and I remember the facilitator said, yeah, you'll want to walk out in nature, you'll want to interact with people. When I went downstairs the one time, it was a lot of talking, a lot of laughter, and it just felt so abrasive on my aura. I just felt so sensitive, and I felt so like, So I just was like, okay, I just need to be by myself and isolate myself. And that was okay. I was okay about that. I was like really, really sure that I wanted to be away from people. And I was like, I don't want to be around other people because I feel like I need to have this. I need to give this to myself. I really need to have this for myself. Yeah, I could have exercised stronger boundaries, put up my protection rows, see that like, oh, this is their energy, this is, them, this is my energy over here. But I think for me, it was the sound of people laughing, the sound of people talking. it was like I got, because I was super orally super sensitive. It was almost like my hearing got like 100 times stronger, and I could hear everything, the pitch, the where it was in the sonic spectrum, like the different timbres in the voices, and it was some of the sounds like coming through the walls. It felt like it could be really kind of creepy sounding, and then some of it was just very like, I don't know, it kind of felt like a slowed down film with people kind of talking in like the kind of sound. So yeah, it was a very powerful experience. It was gentle, they say, but I think gentle in the way that it can be very lighthearted. People, like, I remember when I was in the bathroom, like, do I need to purge from the south or the north? And my facilitator was talking with her for maybe like half an hour, and like there were moments of just like happiness, of like clarity, of like, I can't believe I'm like seeing this finally, and I'm not like attached. It was like complete non-attachment, detachment, and that was so freeing. It was so enlightening to have that feeling, to be able to see things. And yeah, it was a beautiful experience. I remember towards the end, I walked out to the front driveway, and I just sat underneath the tree, and I just, it was almost like I was like on the level of like the birds. I was just kind of feeling their energy, really feeling their energy. The trees, the ravens were talking, and I think it was just this like stern, patient grandfather masculine energy that was very much like, hey, don't be sorry about your boundaries. Don't apologize for your power. Don't apologize for, keeping your sacred temple off limits to, unless it's, the person that you feel deserves it. But like really protecting your temple. Your temple is sacred. And I've let people desecrate my temple, and I feel like this was a moment of true clarity of like, I'm not letting just anyone into my sacred space. This is all about discernment. This is all about respecting my boundaries, being true to myself, being true to my heart's desires, being true to who I am, and seeing the bullshit, seeing the illusions, the lies, the manipulation out there, and just dialing in and listening to my intuition, listening to my body on a really deep level every day. I had a really good conversation with a woman who she actually brought her husband, and she said that he had some narcissistic stuff going on, and I did see it, and she's like, well, the reason we're doing this is so that he can really look at himself, really see what he's doing, being really aware, because the medicine basically, it allows the ego to dissolve so the soul can come through. And so the soul's agenda is really powerful, but the ego gets in the way and starts to cause problems. And so, yeah, it was kind of interesting. There was like two couples that were there that kind of did the experience together, and it was beautiful to watch them. It was beautiful to kind of just be in that energy. So yeah, the end of the evening, I was still feeling high on the San Pedro. It lasted a long time. And yeah, I feel like I really got a lot out of it. I think that the learning, the downloads that I got will kind of be spaced out over the course of many, many weeks. I feel like this was like a really strong reminder of how important the masculine is, the healthy, the divine, devoted masculine, just like being really true to myself, having my boundaries, protecting my temple, not just letting anyone in, and being able to see the bullshit. Like, it was truly amazing. I feel like I've spent so much time doing the ayahuasca ceremonies. I've really gotten to know the grandmother, the feminine side, and now the masculine side. So I do see how both are needed. I think that both sides are needed. And yeah, so it was really powerful. I would definitely do this medicine again. I think that and one thing I forgot to add is that there's a point where you can take cannabis gummies to kind of amplify what the San Pedro is doing. So I took a cannabis gummy, I think it was 2.5 milligrams. And that's when it started, like, so you're getting all these downloads, and it's like, it's a way to kind of help streamline the information that you're kind of experiencing. So usually when I take cannabis gummies, I tend to kind of get a little bit space cadet, but with the San Pedro, it really streamlines things. So it's like, food grounds you, right? And so when you take cannabis, it's ungrounding, but with the San Pedro, I mean, they work so well together. It was pretty amazing. It it just kind of helped me make sense of everything that was coming through. So next time I will try it with the Hape and see if that helps get rid of the nausea. I think at the end, towards 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I did eat a little bit of food. I had some orange slices, and then we had this zucchini kind of dessert thing, and that helped get rid of my nausea. So I definitely, you don't eat during this, and you can sip water. I had to sip some coconut water just because the electrolytes and stuff like that. But you still feel the tiredness and the exhaustion. I do think it wasn't as bad as the ayahuasca, because you're not purging. The purging part, I think, is what really exhausts you, whereas the San Pedro, it's not purgatory. Some people do purge if they've had too much. You do get the tiredness and the exhaustion. But it was weird because there was like an alertness, but I was also exhausted. There was also where I'd feel really warm and also very cold. So it's like you can kind of feel these two things at the same time, which is kind of strange. Very powerful medicine. Highly recommend it. I didn't do any research on it. I just knew that it was a gentler plant medicine than ayahuasca. I would say gentler in that it's like ayahuasca without the purging, and it's more kind of fun because there is the talky part where you're interacting with people and it is fun. Whereas ayahuasca, you're going through some dark shit, and it could be very, very dark. But there also is the light at the end of the tunnel, and anything that happens that's dark, it will pass. It's like it does linger, but you know what, it does come to an end. And I remember the journey lasting so long, and I remember, like, hasn't it been like 6 hours? And the facilitator's like, oh no, it's only been an hour. I'm like, what? So just time is moving so slowly, and I think that's what happens when you're fully present in your body, is time does move slowly. When our minds are racing and we're thinking about a million things, then time tends to go really fast. But it was moving so slowly, and it was almost driving me crazy. It was almost like, when is this going to be over? Because there were some definitely uncomfortable moments. It's not just an easy journey. It's actually, I would say it was equally as challenging as it was fun. So, but anyways, if you have any questions, you can just type them below. But thanks for watching.